Hi, guys. Welcome to the Creative Block Podcast. I am Vince Gonzalez. Today we are here with writer, director, storyteller Matt MacDonald. Matt has a new short out, Mellons, starring Brian Huskey, Martin Mull, Christy Murdoch, and Jordan Williams, just to name a few. Matt wrote and directed this funny comedy about a grocery store manager who learns to find his own strength when a misunderstanding with a customer turns into a sexual harassment accusation, making him a public enemy media sensation. You and I have known each other for a while. I met you when you were an SC grad. Matt was kind enough to do multiple podcasts and YouTube recordings with me in the past. All of which have never seen the light of day, and somehow he's on today again. So I guess you're a real glutton for punishment, but
you know what they say, Vince.
As it may, I appreciate it.
You know what they say, it's the 17th time's the charm. So
17 times. So I fully intend on cutting this and making it perfect and never launching it. So this has been fun.
Great, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you. And I'm joking, but seriously, the value in having you from the very beginning has really formulated where I am now. And I really do appreciate you playing.
This setup is come a long way from where we started. You know, starting in the taco shop. It's a big difference. So kudos to you.
It's a little bit different. And my favorite thing about the taco shop is the camera that slowly tilts down and points to the floor as we're talking and nobody knows it happened.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
But man, those were delicious tacos though.
They were delicious tacos. The media professionalism was meh, but the tacos are amazing. So next time you come out, tacos on me.
Great.
So Matt, Mellons, tell me about, you wrote and directed this. Tell me about how this movie came about.
So I had met a woman years back. I had a friend had like a staged script reading one day, and he just wanted feedback. So we invited a bunch of people from, the different parts of his life, and I went, and you start to chat and whatever. And afterwards we finished. I met with this woman, and she's like, "Hey, you had some really good ideas. Let's get together." And she explained to me she was the vice president of this nonprofit organization called the Moving Picture Institute, and they do, I don't really know sort of their whole origin story, but essentially they put on a bunch of different workshops, and they're very like filmmaker focused, trying to help support filmmakers and artists. And so, she was super cool and very, very smart. And so we just sort of kept in touch, and I got on their mailing list. Well, then right before the COVID of everything happened, they put out a newsletter basically soliciting short film pitches. And the idea was they were hoping to start, for years they had been supporting other people's projects, giving them finishing funds. They had been putting on workshops like cinematography workshops and, placing interns at various production companies. But they were looking to develop their own stuff, right? Their own media content. And so in doing so, they started this short film development program where they would solicit pitches based around a certain prompt. And then those writers would go through a process to, work through it. And then eventually they would choose a few of them to actually finance and produce. And so on this newsletter, the prompt I got was standing up for what you believe in, even when it's difficult. So I submitted a few ideas for stories that were, thrown around in my brain. And one of them being this story of a very perky, happy-go-lucky grocery store manager who gets, wrongfully accused of sexual harassment, and essentially he gets canceled, right? Because everyone's getting canceled these days. And so I thought, well, wouldn't that be interesting to explore? Like the most harmless guy in the world who's so good at his job, and someone's trying to come after him. So I submitted an idea, and then, I was lucky enough to go into the next stage where they had a screenwriting workshop. And by this point, COVID had happened, so we're all just huddled up in our houses, not going anywhere. But every week, sure enough, me and a few others in a little comedy screenwriting group, we would, submit our script for the week, and we would get feedback. And so a representative from MPI, as well as a couple of other, seasoned filmmakers they had brought on to sort of mentor us. We went through multiple rounds, and then from there we went through, they whittled down the projects to A lesser number, we went through a directing workshop, so it was much more about practical, hands-on. On a lot of this, having been a grad of USC, a lot of this was review for someone like me. I've been around the block a little bit, but some of the other people and fellows in this program were from all walks of life. People who've never made a film before, so just an incredible opportunity that the company was offering. And then, by the end of it, they chose a handful of projects to actually produce. And so Mellons was fortunately one of them. And, again, this was probably about summer 2020. So we put a pause on things for about a year until production was able to happen again in LA. But then it happened and we shot it. And then, that was 2021. We finished it. And then all last year, 2022, we did film festivals all around the country. And now, just this year, just about a month ago, we put it online for the world to see. So it's been a long journey, but it's been great. It's been really fun.
What's the response been so far? You've been happy?
Yeah, I think the response has been really fun. Anytime you put anything online, like, you never know what you're going to get. And so, I just love reading the YouTube comments. You just see some of the strange, people that are out there, but also people that are very, very kind and pick up on insights that I had no idea. They're a lot smarter than I am. So they're pointing out things that, oh, I can't believe you meant to do this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I totally meant to do that. That was great. So no, it's been great. That's, very few troll comments, which I think is a win anytime on YouTube.
Totally. Especially even touching this subject matter, even it's hard to even in text anywhere write sexual harassment without feeling like you're going to get slammed from one side or the other.
Oh, totally.
If your intentions are 100% pure.
It's such a touchy subject. And my goal with it from the beginning was like, look, this is one of the things where you can't stand on a soapbox. It doesn't matter what you come down, what your political ideology is. It's a touchy subject for everyone. And so you can't stand on a soapbox and start preaching at people because they're not going to listen. That's not the way to get through to them. So I thought, let's really not take ourselves too seriously. Let's make it fun. And a lot of ways, I kind of view the film as just a live action cartoon. It's very silly. It's very, it breaks the fourth wall. I really tried to have a lot of fun with it. And so by the end of it, you're entertained, you're kind of laughing along and, you're having a good time. But maybe it also makes you stop to think a little bit about some of the deeper issues and meanings that it's trying to address.
Tell me about the production. How long was it? Was it a good experience? Was it stressful? How was that?
It was great. I can't thank MPI, the organization, enough, because I think, they really, it's a very rare opportunity that anyone's willing to give you money to like make your movie, let alone for a short film, for something that they're not going to make any money on, and they put real resources into it. It wasn't like we were, $5 and a piece of gum, it was like, we shot on, an Alexa, we shot on anamorphic lenses. And so, we shot at a live active working grocery store, where there's customers. Yeah. And so I know those locations aren't cheap, so no, I'm very grateful. The production wise, we shot for 3 days, one of them being at the grocery store and two of them we shot at a church in Hollywood. It was just off the 101 freeway. And it just had all these like weird spaces that we were able to like make work for different locations. And so it was great. We shot, it was like May, June of 2021 that we shot. And so a lot of the COVID restrictions were still in place. So, masks and testing and, different zones was still very prominent on set things. So it was challenging in that. It eats into your day, especially for a short where you only have a certain amount of time and you don't have a lot of money to spend. You want to be as efficient as possible, but it's like, nope, we got to wait for the health and safety check. And, I understand that's part of the process, but it definitely was an extra challenge beyond just the normal filmmaking stuff. And, but overall it was, I was very, very pleased with how it went. There's always things that you look back and it's like, gosh, I wish I had more time or this or that. But for what it was, I think always. we were relatively drama free. Everyone was nice, and I think honestly, what it was, everyone had been cooped up in their houses for a year and a half at that point. So it's like any excuse to get out and do anything, they were just grateful, just to be outside. So I think that made a big difference.
That's amazing. And tell me about the casting, because you have a great cast.
Casting was important. MPI it was important to MPI to, to get at least maybe a recognizable actor. And so we went with a casting director. We worked with a casting director named Alexa Pereira, and her background is mainly in TV comedy stuff. And so I knew Nigel had to be important. He had to be kind of like a likable guy. And she had presented some names, and Brian Huskey was one of them. And I had just finished my watch through of Veep, and Brian, any scene he was in that, he plays Leon, who's like the antagonistic journalist in Veep. And if you've seen it, like every scene he's in, he just steals it. And he's just one of those actors that you've seen it in 1,000 things, and he's always hilarious, So I wrote him a note, and I told him I was a fan of his work. He had also done a couple Comedy Central specials, Mr. Neighbor's House, and they too were really funny and dark humor, and I got on with him really well. So it was very exciting once he came on board and agreed to do it, because he's just a super talented, funny guy. And then I knew for when I was writing it, the whole thing takes place in this grocery store, and all the characters keep referring to the owner of the grocery store, Mr. Sunnyside. Oh, Mr. Sunnyside, who is he? And he's just sort of built up to be this kind of mythic character. And so I knew writing it, like I wanted to do some sort of stunt casting where it would have, it would be really fun if it could be someone you like recognize or someone you knew. And, again, Alexa came at us with a list of people she recommended. And, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the movie Clue. I watched over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I like VHS tape was worn out. And so I watched it over. And when she said Martin Mull, I'm like, oh my God, he'd be incredible. He's so, and he's been in so many iconic television shows and roles, and he was in Veep as well. So as soon as she said his name, I was like, absolutely. So again, I wrote him a letter. I said, hey, I'm a big fan. Here's the script, and we chatted on the phone. He liked the script. He liked the message of it. And again, he straight up told me, he was kind of bored. He'd like, a lot of the productions had gone remote. There's been a lot of like remote green screen stuff, and I think a lot of these actors were just sort of itching to be back on set around real people again, in front of a real camera. And so I think timing wise, the COVID stuff sort of, it helped us out a little bit, because I think it allowed us to get maybe a higher caliber of talent than maybe a normal short film would.
That's neat. Yeah, I just saw him in, he was just in Not Dead Yet.
Right.
I don't know if you saw that series.
Right. Yeah. The America.
But he's always great. I mean, he's
just
as good in everything he does,
And he's such a pro. I mean, luckily, part of the way the role was designed was like, he was more willing to come, because it's a small role, but it sort of has a looming presence over the whole story. But, in terms of practical production, it's only a few hours shoot. It's a half day. He didn't live that far from the location. And so he came in, and I had a chance to chat with him. And so just talking with this guy, I mean, this guy's a legend. He's been around for, 40, 50 years. And so hearing some of his stories, and just, him casually talking about, oh, when I was doing this, when I was doing that. And he's just such a professional that that was really a fun treat.
That's fun. That's really fun. That's incredible. And so what's next now? You have this one out. It's in the world. I'm sure you've been talking about it and doing what you can to talk about it. And so what's going on with you next? Or what are you working on next?
Well, Vince, that's the question, isn't it? That's always what are you going to do next? And
what else you got?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm excited to get the film out there. I mean, like we've talked about, it's gotten some really good feedback and some positive reception. So I'm really grateful for that. And I think for me, I think the next step, as always, is like, how do you turn your short film career into a feature film career? And so I think that's the next step for me. I've done a lot of shorts over the years. And, you and I have talked about this before. Certainly coming from a program like USC, you're kind of programmed to do these shorts, and you kind of get it in your system. And so I think, you just kind of have to level up to the next thing. So I'm writing a lot, trying to write a variety of, bigger stuff, and then smaller stuff that's, maybe executable on a smaller budget. But I think Mellons itself will always live as just a short film, but certainly, my hope is that it shows off. That's the idea of a short film. It shows off you can do this, you can work with actors, you can, show off what you have to offer. So we'll see. We'll see what happens next. 5 years from now,
That's a
when I come on the podcast
yes.
again.
When we do it again, yeah.
Yeah.
I have this whole pitch for you from the perspective of the Mellons, but it's in space. But we'll talk about that
Yeah,
later.
that'll be, offline.
um, uh, and what was your, because like I'm diving in right now in a bunch of changing technology, and a lot of that changing technology is also happening in filmmaking, right? So are you seeing, because you're in the trenches right now, you're in the kind of the front lines of storytelling, uh, have you seen anything significant in terms of how people are taking pitches, how people are talking about TikTok? Like, has it changed for you as you now go about in the world and pitch your content?
Oh, totally. I think that the biggest, at least in the most recent one of memory, anyways, when you talk about like marketing stuff, right? Any sort of marketing, anything, it's all social media. It's all, you know, every video now needs a 9:16 vertical delivery, And so with Melons, especially, like film folks are asking for trailers that are in 9:16. It's like, it's an anamorphic film, so it's this shape, but they want it this shape, and it's like, what am I supposed to do? It's not designed for that, but that's the reality now. Um, and I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, and the thing I'm actually most excited about, this whole AI revolution with
Yeah,
generative imagery is unbelievable. It's crazy. Have you played around with it at all?
not yet, but I literally just signed up for an account, and I feel a lot of pressure to get hands-on knowledge of how it works. My feeling is love it or hate it, here it comes.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of get a handle on what it is. So at a minimum, I could have the vocabulary and to have a conversations. But I really do want to start playing with it.
It's really incredible. It's incredible, just absolutely incredible. I don't know enough about the mechanics of it, and the way those data sets are formed that these generative services are pulling from. There's a lot of ethical concerns, and people are very concerned about theft. Is it theft? Is it stealing? Is it? I don't know. I'm not sure I know enough to really speak intelligently about that. But just in terms of
Right.
the product of it, you look at something like Midjourney, where you put in a prompt, and I played around with them a lot. You put in a prompt, and it spits out some things, and you can try different seeds and play with, certain words and certain phrases. And I mean, I think for me personally, what I've used it most for is like pitch decks. You know,
Yeah,
Traditionally,
I've heard that.
you write a script or you're pitching on a project or something, and you always want to have some sort of visuals. People are visual, they want to see the stuff. And in the olden days, you would spend your hard-earned cash to hire an artist to do it. And I think that's still the ideal, right? That's still I would love to be able to hire a favorite artist to create custom artwork, concept art for me. But I am not Chris Nolan. I am not, Steven Spielberg. I do not have any sort of studio deal at the moment to finance that. So a lot of times, a lot of these decks I put together or pitch videos or whatever, it's just me doing stuff myself. And I'm not an artist, Vince. I cannot draw. I cannot paint. I can barely tie my shoes. So, you
And
kinda
now
have,
you don't need to.
yeah, right, exactly. So you kind of have to find what you have available. And
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
amazing like Midjourney is you spend enough time prompting it, you can get some really high-end looking custom imagery for for nothing. It's unbelievable. It really is. Now, you know, you probably don't want to sell that. I think that's when we start to get the ethical concerns. You don't want to like market that as something you do. But if you're just putting together something for your own projects and you're just trying to get people excited about it, why not? I think that's, as you said, it's coming, so embrace it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I can imagine, lawyers are going to have a great
Oh,
time with
yeah,
this. Lawyers always win, right?
yeah, of
Because it's
course.
going to be who owns it. That conversation goes on forever, I guess. But this is going to be a really fascinating. In the next 5 years, to see where this goes be pretty incredible. The rate that it's growing is crazy fast, and um, the mass adoption, I think, in the next year and a half or so is going to really be out of control. So it's definitely going to be an interesting thing to watch.
I saw a
And you're not
video
the first one I've
yesterday.
heard say that they were making their pitch decks using it, like presentations. It's just like, how else can you create something
Yeah.
like that if without thousands and thousands of dollars of artist fees?
No, it's really revolutionary in that sense. I mean, I saw a video yesterday. I work a lot as a picture editor. That's kind of like the day job I do to pay the bills in between projects. And I saw this piece of software yesterday. It was early. It's like just an early teaser video. So who knows how realistic their claims are. But it was a service, an online hosted service, where it claimed you could upload a video clip. Right, you shoot it on your phone or you shoot it on a high end camera or something, and you upload it, and it claims to be able to have all these abilities that in traditional workflows now, to this day, visual effects workflows that would cost thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, painting people out, rotoscoping out characters, compositing in CG characters, matching lighting, matching depth of field, all these things that, it takes really talented and experienced artists to do well. It's saying it can do, you pay your monthly fee or whatever, and you get so many video uploads and it can spit it out right away and give you everything you need. And some of the examples they show are unbelievable. It's like, so again, how much of this is BS and how much of it is actually workable and usable? I don't know, at least at this state. But if that's where it's headed, you want to talk about revolution, changing the film industry as we know it. That's huge. That's humongous. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited for the things to come and the tools they offer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely super interesting. And I just see so many people, especially like around my age group, just like hard not accepting it and being left behind like really fast. You know what I mean? And so I've seen this. I saw it with nonlinear editing. When that came about, chem guys were like, no, 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 it's not real filmmaking. And they got left behind pretty fast. I see that same pattern happening again. So that's why I personally feel like I better understand it at least.
Well, anytime there's some sort of new technology, it's scary because it threatens our way of thinking, our way of existence.
Yeah.
People are worried, am
Yeah.
I going to be out of a job? Like, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Am I going to be able to feed my kids? They're all, of course they're
Yeah.
worried, but adapt or die, that's
Yeah.
that's the only way to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Rise of the code writers. It's
Yeah. We're in the Matrix anyway, so
we're going to need like doctors and code writers and lawyers, and everybody else is going to be out of work.
yeah.
And you also there's shades of this because back in the day you had that project Not Normal where you hacked sort of a Grand Theft Auto. You sort of wrote yourself into that universe and created your own content in that style and got a lot of attention for that. That kind of has shades of this almost, where you were just sort of created your own world.
Yeah, I mean, for any creative person, right? You're always thinking like, what's something I can do within my limitations? And I'm interested in filmmaking. I want to make feature films. I want to be, that's what I'm interested in. I want to tell stories on a big stage like that. But films are expensive, and you kind of have to figure out sometimes. Okay, well, what can I do that's outside the box? And I think this is the same thing, but with Not Normal. At the time, again, I had this idea for a story, and I've always been a gamer. I've worked a lot in video games. I've played a lot of video games, and Grand Theft Auto is a very famous game series. You've played one, you sort of know what you're in for. It's this big open world thing, and as the years have gone on, they've gotten really, really good looking, like graphics wise. You can look at it and it's like, wow, that looks incredible. And then the last several years, as more games, came, were available on PCs and home computers, high end systems. There's people online that have found ways to add what they call mods or modifications to these games. So they go into the game files and they change a bunch of stuff and they can tweak the settings, and so it allows you to change the game in ways that were never actually meant to be changed. But people are crafty and they want to play as Iron Man or whatever, whatever silly thing they want to do. And I had seen a video of someone changing some graphic settings to an already beautiful looking game But you looked at it, and as the car's driving down the street, I mean, it looks real. It looks photo real. You can't tell the difference.
Wow.
And the interesting thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 specifically, when it appeared on computers, it came with them just like a afterthought feature that allowed players to record clips. So you could play the game and record a little clip, and then go inside the tool to place virtual cameras. And just I think the idea was for them to make little stunt montages. And you can go on YouTube today and look up Grand Theft Auto stunt montage, and you can see people have done exactly that. Well, me being me, again, thinking like, okay, how can I be creative? How can I think outside the box? How can I take these new tools that are new to me and figure out a way to do something that no one else has done before? And I thought, well, I bet if I install these graphical mods that make it look nearly photoreal, almost fully live action, I don't know how to model and animate stuff. I'm not a 3D CG artist of that level. I'm not Pixar. I can't do that myself. But this game already looks incredible. Like, if I can change some settings and install a couple things to make it look almost to that level of quality, well, why wouldn't I? So I went in and I made these changes, and I thought, okay, let's write a script that's based inside the game, that has actions and things that I know I can execute within the game. I'll record that clip, and then I'll go in and place these virtual cameras, just like the stunt montages. Having my background in filmmaking behind me, I bet I could tell a really cool story, make a short film. So I did exactly that. And, like anything, it was a lot of trial and error, and a lot of, you sort of learn as you go. And it took me many, many months, and, I'd work on it off and on when I wasn't working on other things. But by the end of it, I had this short film that was made entirely within the video game, and I put it online, and it got a lot of attention, it made the rounds, and it was cool. I mean, again, we're creative people. We got to figure out ways to scratch our itch,
Yeah. I will put the link to that in the show notes, so people can check that out. And where can people see Melons?
So Melons is currently streaming on YouTube on the Omeleto Channel. If you're unfamiliar with Omeleto, they're one of the premier short film aggregators online. So they show a lot of the best films from film festivals of the past years. And so youtube.com/Omeleto. Mellons is the title, and I hope people enjoy it.
Cool. And where can people find you on social?
My website is matt-macdonald.com. That's my personal website, and then there'll be links to Instagram and Twitter and all that. I mean, look, I'm boring. I don't post anything. So I'm not gonna blow smoke up your butt, Vince. This is what you get. So you might get some cool like pizza pictures or something, but I wouldn't come to be looking to be inspired.
Yeah. Well, my 5 followers are just going to totally stalk you. So, Matt, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It is unknown whether or not this episode will air, but I do appreciate your time today. It was great to hang out with you. I wish you the very best with this movie going forward, and I will put in all your relevant links in the show notes. And we are happy to watch and support. So we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks so much, Vince. Always a pleasure.